The unwise Kanye West once said, "No one man should have all that power." Rankings. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. Today, two things on my mind. The first is the power rankings. Let's find out where your Big 12 team is this week based on those results. And I'll tell you, this is the biggest shakeup easily so far. We'll also do a deep dive into BYU slamming Kansas State in Provo that sent shockwaves across the conference and certainly changed the way that these power rankings shake out. If you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job. That is, if I still have my job based on the Kanye West reference that opened the show. Let's get into it. Number one in the power rankings, BYU. But specifically in Provo at night in those uniforms. That's one of the most dominant performances that we've seen all year long. Again, and it wasn't the way that Kansas State beat Arizona was a beat down, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, Arizona was not favored in this game. This was Kansas State favored by a touchdown in hostile territory, and BYU saying, we're going to blow your doors off. So specifically BYU in Provo at night in those uniforms, number one. The real number one is Utah. This is undisputed. They went to Oklahoma State without their old man starting quarterback, who is, to me, the catalyst for them being a Big 12 championship team. I've said it. I said that Utah's not a Big 12 title contender without Cam Rising. They just won at Oklahoma State. They're number one in the league. At number two, my quasi three, though, if you're looking at BYU at night in Provo and in those uniforms, I've got UCF right behind Utah. I think they are a very dangerous football team. We've seen Kansas State and Oklahoma State both fall recently. UCF, beneficiary of a bye week. Iowa State is in that 3 slot. Yeah. I mean, they've got one of the most quality wins that the Big 12 seen out of conference, beating Iowa on the road. Iowa State, they're right there. They blew the brakes off of Arkansas State. Looked very impressive in that game as well. In the 5 spot, BYU, technically 4 spot. BYU. They're the 4th best team in the Big 12 right now. And they were kind of in this range last season around this same time and fell apart. But Utah, UCF, Iowa State, BYU, those are your teams that are unscathed at the top that I think could be real players moving forward based on how their defenses have played, namely Utah and BYU defensively. Iowa State, you could certainly throw in that category as well. Need to see a little bit more out of UCF. Oklahoma State at number 5. Yeah, I mean, I still think that Oklahoma State, despite the loss, is one of the top 5 teams in the Big 12. Kansas State will come in at 6. They're 2 very even teams to me, and I like each of them having an opportunity to still get to Arlington, despite early losses in conference play. Kansas State falling to BYU, Oklahoma State falling to Utah. Arizona is going to come in at number 7 this week. Virtue of the bye week for them, too. I don't have anything to kind of demote you from where you've been in Big 12 play. I give Arizona the nod at 7. I still believe in Noah Fafita and Tet McMillan, but by transitive property, if BYU beat Kansas State by 30 and Kansas State beat Arizona by 20, that would mean BYU's 50 points better than Arizona. I don't know. I need more. Too small of a sample size to say that the Wildcats are down and out or that they could be Big 12 title contenders. They're in the middle at 7. Number 8, Colorado. They are in the top half of the Big 12 this week after beating Baylor. I said on yesterday's show, that was a very gritty win. And what I learned about Colorado is that this whole deal that I talked about, culture and, distractions, and they won. They won a tight conference game late. That's good. So it's number 1, Utah. Number 2, UCF. 3, Iowa State. 4, BYU. 5, Oklahoma State. 6, Kansas State. 7, Arizona. 8, Colorado. At number 9, West Virginia. Win column, Neil Brown, Garrett Green. Very good. Nico Marchiol, who dropped that ball. You're at 9. I mean, you moved up from last week, certainly. At 10 is Texas Tech. There's this conglomerate of teams in that 9 through like 12-ish range that I'm still like 9 to 11-ish of Texas Tech, West Virginia, Arizona State that I'm going, can you be good? Are you going to turn it around all of a sudden? West Virginia got the gritty win. They're behind Colorado. Colorado's 3-1. West Virginia had that fall apart against Pitt. I haven't forgotten. Texas Tech had that fall apart against Washington State and ACU. So a great win against Arizona State at home. And I still think Arizona State's good. Cam Scadaboo is very good at the whole football thing. I mean, what do you expect? Arizona State to go win a game when DJ Diesel, Shaq, is playing live? No wonder Texas Tech won this game. 12, TCU. I hate everything about what you did this weekend, and you don't deserve to play another football game. And I mean, I've worn a TCU jersey as a Baylor student to the national championship. It was for love. My girlfriend at the time went to TCU. It was for love. But I had this like endearing connection to the Frog. No. You were bad. Terribly, terribly bad. You're at 12. 13, Kansas. What's wrong with you? Say me what's wrong. Why are you the way that you are? Kansas, notably not good at the football thing right now at 1-3. Are you back to old Kansas? Old Kansas was really, really bad, like non-competitive. So you're not back to old Kansas, but it's not good. At 14, Baylor. Either cut the football program or fire the coach. And if you fire the coach, probably have to also fire the AD that kept the 3-9 coach because he thought the guy could turn it around. You're 2-2, which is not the end of the world. But it's not like a good. I still think they're worse than Kansas. I still think Baylor's worse than Kansas. I got the Bears behind the Jayhawks, especially if we're talking power rankings. Like, where's your morale right now? You know, like what kind of moral victories do you have? I do believe that Baylor has less morale than Kansas after that bone-crushing loss to Colorado. At 15, the Cincinnati Bearcats. Yeah. Arguably could be above Baylor. Or arguably could be above Kansas or TCU. Sample size, baby. Sample size. Right now at 15, you're not last. Applause. We commend you for that. You're also 34 points better than the last place team. At 16, I didn't put them on the graphic. I ran out of space. And I just didn't feel like it was really necessary at this point. Houston's just not good at football. Law of averages. Somebody's really got to stink. And Houston does. That's the case. That's the case for the Cougars. I don't know what to do. I don't know. You fired the AD. You hired a new coach. And I just wish it was a little competitive. I wish that I enjoyed watching it. Like, oh, good fight, guys. No. 34-0's not great. Coming up, BYU, Kansas State. Wow. Locked on Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel's where I go and say, hey, I think BYU is going to win that football game. And FanDuel says, If you bet on that, if you say that and they do, you're going to win money. And I say, thank you, FanDuel. I want to bet on that. And I did. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5, get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket for YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account, a current form of payment. You can cancel anytime. Visit FanDuel.com, download America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. Do it today. The BYU Cougars take down Kansas State in Provo, Utah. And boy, was it glorious. Now, am I a Kansas State fan? Yes. Do I want Kansas State to still compete in the Big 12? Yes. Do I want more Big 12 teams at the bottom to have a fighter's chance at being relevant in this league? Also, yes. And Jake Retzlaff and company were not just good. They were dominant in this game against Kansas State. Night game, Provo, the jerseys. The win probability, according to ESPN, in the middle of the second quarter was Kansas State to win. 80% chance of Kansas State winning. K-State takes an early 6-0 lead. Through the middle of the second, you're like, oh no, The BYU offense sucks again. Then it's 6-3. And something happens. When BYU kicks that first field goal, it says, we're just going to turn the defense into the greatest defense of all time. We're going to trade our defense for an NFL defense and see whether or not you all at home notice. Jay Hill, can we give the Heisman Trophy to Jay Hill? The offense was fine. Maybe I'm just a cynic and I have spent too much time not trusting the A-Rod process that I can't all of a sudden jump on the A-Rod train. I just believe that Jay Hill somehow, maybe every time BYU's offense scores a touchdown, I think in some way Jay Hill has to do with it. He probably took over the comms, took over the headset and was like, run the touchdown play. He is the catalyst for what's happening in Provo. From that 2-minute and 10-second mark, where the field goal goes in with 2:10 left in the second quarter, to the 10:45 mark in the third quarter, remaining in the third quarter. That's not a lot of time, friends. That is roughly 6.5 minutes. In that 6.5 minutes, it goes from BYU trailing 6-0 to BYU being ahead 31-6. 6.5 minutes of gameplay. The Kingston punt return. Can I say something? And we not get mad here. It's a funny joke. It's just a joke. Someone tweeted, Kingston ran so far on that punt return, it should be counted as his mission. And I think that's funny. I think it's funny. It's all in jest here. Wow. Retzlaff, man. Looked just kind of like, I get it. If you watch the whole game, you don't love Jake Retzlaff. You're not like, oh, wow, this is when I say love, I mean this is a Heisman contending quarterback. This guy is the one that's going to lead BYU to victory. No, it's not the offense. It's still not the offense. It's the defense. And Retzlaff didn't have a great week with his legs, which is, different. And Retzlaff didn't, just unload to Chase Roberts 7 times, which is, or Darius Lassiter 7 times, or Keelan Mary. He was just like, Jake Retzlaff is good at football. But this defense of BYU is monstrous. Tyler Batty, maybe my favorite player in the Big 12. Harrison Taggart. And part of this does fall on Avery Johnson. There were so many Kansas State. I predicted a BYU win. I did a whole video last week on why BYU was going to win this game. And there were so many Kansas State fans in the chat that were like, the chat? Geez, TikTok has ruined me. In the comments section, all these Kansas State fans, oh, well, the BYU fans can't score points. Oh, the BYU fans aren't going to have that much of an impact on the game. Brother, Avery Johnson peed down his pants leg. And the pee was so visible, immense, frothy. You could see it. It's like visible pee stains all in and around the crotch area. 15 for 28, 130 yards, 0 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. That's not very good. 4.8 yards per pass for Kansas State in this game. That's not very good at all. And it's credit to the BYU defense. Now, K-State was able to run the football. DJ Giddens, 19 carries for 93 yards. Avery Johnson, 11 carries for 74 yards. That's the problem. Like, Avery Johnson's a great quarterback, except that we invented the forward pass in 1906. 43 carries, 224 yards, 5.2 yards per carry. That's not bad for Kansas State. And look, Avery Johnson, of so many of the passes he made, just the receivers just dropped them. It felt like one mistake after another mistake, and it got louder and louder, and I had chills. I'm sitting in a hotel room in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where Washington crossed the Delaware, and I'm watching it on this little, what is this? It's a little LG TV, 32-inch maybe, not a big character. I got to turn up volume about 26. I had chills at the BYU crowd because the camera is shaking. They couldn't keep the whole stadium is moving so much that this camera shot can't stay still. That's what BYU brought. And there were Kansas State fans, they had the audacity to be like, oh, well, we've been in the Big 12 a long time and seen very many good crowds. There's nothing that BYU could do to our great Avery Johnson. Yeah, it wasn't good. for Kansas State. And I do want to give credit to Avery Johnson that a lot of the times he'd be like, hey, you're open there, Mr. Receiver and or tight end guy. You, random guy who wears a number in the 80s. What do you say you catch this old football? And the Kansas State receivers just would bat it down. No, I'm too open. I don't want this one. Arr. It's like constantly. We have this quarterback who's just trying to acclimate himself. He's thrown 2 picks. The team has fumbled 3 times. They only lost one of them. But the DJ Giddens fumble was atrocious. This team needs some sort of consistency, some sort of something. Oh, fumble, return for a touchdown. Oh, punt, taken back for a touchdown. Oh, Kansas State didn't score a touchdown. 38-9. BYU beat Kansas State. Can I say something and you not get mad? Don't get mad. Don't get mad. This isn't great for the conference. Ducks. Duck. Oh, don't throw anything. It's not great for the conference because we need that one dominant team. We need somebody. It could be Utah. Could be Utah. Somebody to step up. And not even just one. We need multiple somebodies to be a consistent power. I need 2 or 3 teams to be 10-win programs and vie for the college football playoff. So what I'm asking you, BYU, is do not allow this to be imposter syndrome. Now you just told me, hey, we're a really good football team, actually. Our defense is insane. Don't stop. Don't stop at 38-9. Because now if BYU finishes 7-5, you've effectively wasted this. Now you, BYU, have to carry the torch of, we need to be good and represent this conference. Can you do that? You only had 14 first downs. 14. 3 for 9. 3 for 9 on third down. 241 yards. And a lot of that's because Kansas State had the ball. Because you, BYU, your defense was so good. You're like, you know what, Kansas State? You keep the ball, baby. Because we're going to make some sort of wild defensive touchdown or a special teams touchdown. And then, time of possession is going to be skewed. All those numbers are going to be skewed because our defense is just that good. That is the case, yes. But I don't trust the BYU offense yet. And now, if you're going to topple one of the big dogs in the Big 12, you then have to become a big dog. If you go 7-5, this doesn't help us nationally. Sorry, BYU. The pressure is now on for you to win the rest of the way. Hey, guess what, big guy? Coming up, you get Baylor on the road, and you might have more fans there than the Bears do. They're going through it a bit. 5-0 BYU, Arizona coming to town, hopefully a night game. Oklahoma State coming to town. It's a 10:15 p.m. kick. Oh, yes. You got a shot. Just keep winning. Please just keep winning. That game at Utah just got a whole lot more interesting. Coming up tomorrow, I'm going to plug this microphone into my computer and talk about sports. More BYU, more everything around the Big 12. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. No se grande.